what should you do? Okay? What should you do now to protect yourself? Let me just check the time out. What time do we have until? I know probably 5 minutes ago you'd all be happy, but so we can get out to the tour. What time? 4:30? Okay, good. So the suggested approach is that you're really in a campaign mode 24/7, 365. It can't be the traditional reactive campaign. The way it's worked up until now, for most employers, and I'm not saying this is the way it should have been, but the way most employers dealt with unions in terms of their organizing activities is they really wouldn't do too much until the union appeared on the scene. And then they would react, okay? And then an employer would spring into campaign mode and would start training their supervisors and would start meeting with their employees and would educate the employees about why it's not good to have a union. And if there was an election, by the time the election was held, the employees would be fully educated, and hopefully, with that education and that knowledge, they would vote against the union. But it was a very reactive way of dealing with it. That worked okay under the old rules because you had enough time from the time that you got the petition to the time of the election, 42 days, to try to do something and to try to convince your employees. There are many cases that you can't do anything about because it's a lost cause, but in many cases, that's the way it worked. What you're going to, I think, have to transition to is an ongoing, proactive effort. The primary goals of which, on an ongoing basis, as I said, 24/7, 365, is to achieve an employee-first culture. You don't want to wait. You want that to be the case all the time. You want to have an environment where employees will reject an offer to sign an authorization card, so that when the union comes in with the card, the employees say, no, it's great here. We like working here. We don't want to sign that card. Okay? You want employees to know what a card is. Right? Right now, most employees don't even know what it is. They don't know that it's a legally binding document, and they'll sign it just because they were told to sign it. So you want employees to know it. What is it? What is it, and why should or why shouldn't I sign it? That's something that you need to be telling your employees now. And you want an educated workforce that is aware of the disadvantages of unionization. Those are the primary goals of what you should be doing now with your employees. The preparedness solution that we suggest contains 3 steps: auditing, planning, and training. And we're going to talk about each one of those. Step 1, auditing. You have to assess your vulnerability. How vulnerable are you now if you're not unionized? How vulnerable are you to becoming unionized? And this requires a detailed review of the circumstances that create employee frustration and lead to unionization. You need to evaluate things like, and these are just examples, your communication systems. Very often, companies have terrific benefits and they treat employees well, but they don't communicate with them. You hear that. I've heard that in union organizing campaigns countless times in the past, where that's what the employees were complaining. We didn't know what was going on. This decision was being made within the company, and we heard about it afterwards. And we wish we were part of what was going on, just so we can feel like it's one big family. And it was a breakdown in communications. Even though the company did a lot of things right, they didn't communicate properly. So you have to evaluate your communication systems. Employee morale. Do you know what's going on with your employees? Do you know if they're happy or if they're unhappy? That's something that you need to know and you need to take a look at. Your supervisory competence. Very often, employees go to unions because they're not happy with their supervisors. Again, you could have great benefits, you could have great policies, but you have supervisors who are treating their employees like garbage. They're not treating them with respect. And that causes a disgruntled employee to go to a union. And next thing you know, you have a union snooping around getting employees signing cards. So supervisory competence is crucial to assess. Your policies and procedures, your handbooks. What documents are given to your employees? You need to look at all those things to determine whether the messages you're given are good messages or bad messages. You can have, again, I've seen handbooks that I've reviewed that just, again, the company had a really good message, but its handbook didn't convey that message well, and it came across to employees in a very negative way. So what you say in all those communications needs to be looked at. Your compensation and benefit structure, obviously. I'm not saying that you just turn around and you give all your employees huge raises and all the benefits that they want, but you need to take a look to determine whether you're competitive. What's going on in your industry? What's going on in your area? Okay, and if you're out of sync, you probably need to take a close look at that. Your working conditions. What's going on the line with your employees? What type of conditions are they working in? That probably goes hand in hand with the morale issue. Respect for leadership. Union activity in the geographic area and industry. Very important. There are certain unions in certain areas of the country that are very active. Other parts of the country where unions aren't as active. And you need to take a look, and industries as well, that, there are certain industries that unions target, and they go after those industries very strongly. And you need to know if that's the case in your area and in your industry. These are things you need to assess. Once you've done that, once you've done the audit, you need to analyze the results. Which areas are you vulnerable in? You need to identify those areas that need improvement, and then you need to formulate changes, okay? You can't sit back now and wait like we used to do. You need to be proactive, take a look at these things, and then take action to do something about it. And then you need to create a plan to address those issues, okay? And we do this with companies. We're getting calls constantly now. Since this statute, the Employee Free Choice Act, became a possibility, we've gotten called in to do these assessments for companies, to analyze their vulnerabilities, and to come up with a plan, along with the company executives, come up with a plan that will help address the problem areas. Because if you do away with the problem areas, it's going to make it much less likely that a union is going to be able to get in the first instance. The third point is training. Training is crucial. Most of the training is geared toward supervisory training. That's what I'm going to talk about a little bit right now. But there is even, we even do executive level training at a higher level, which is more strategic than the type of training that I'm going to talk about. And there's even some training that can be done with the rank and file employees about what cards are. But most of the training is focused on the supervisors, because the supervisors are the front line. And the supervisors are the ones that the rank and file employees who may get unionized, the supervisors are the ones that they deal with from a management standpoint on a most regular basis. So the supervisors are the ones that need to know the answers to the questions, and the supervisors also need to know what to be on the lookout for with regard to unionization. So most of the training that we suggest focuses on your frontline supervisors. Some of the things that they should be training on, and this can be done in one or two types of training sessions. They're not all separate training sessions, but some of the areas that are hit in those training sessions are fostering a positive environment for your employees, obviously. It's teaching the supervisors, how to do that. Effective communication, we talked about that earlier. How do you communicate with your employees? How do you talk with the employees so you're not talking down to them? Things like that. Consistent and fair treatment. We hear it all the time in union organizing campaigns where employees felt that they weren't treated fairly by their supervisor. That so-and-so got favored preferential treatment, and I got written up for the same thing. This guy got a raise and I didn't, okay? That's not being fair and consistent in terms of treatment of employees. A lot of times supervisors don't even realize they're doing it. So this training that we do, and that you should think about doing, is to teach them about that. You really need to, work with an even hand when you're dealing with your employees. Effective administration of discipline, okay, goes hand in hand with that. You want your discipline to be, if someone's going to get disciplined for something on one day, it should be the same every day. And you can't have one person getting disciplined for one thing and another person not getting disciplined for that thing. It's going to create all kinds of problems in your workforce, morale problems, and these are the types of things that employees go to unions for, because unions come in and say, we'll get you a contract that has a just cause provision in it and a progressive disciplinary policy, and if you come with us, we'll get you those things. So you want to take that away from a union by making sure that your managers are effective with regard to the administration of discipline and other implementation of policies. Effective performance management. If you do employee evaluations, and you should do employee evaluations, how effective are they? Do your supervisors do them? I can't tell you how many times, I've gone to a company, they've terminated somebody, and they told me that the person sues for some type of discrimination. And I say, send me the file. I get the file. I open up the file, and why were they terminated? They tell me it was an awful employee. Awful employee. We just had it up to here with the person. One mistake after another. Great, let me see the file. We get the file. There's nothing in it.